So we're given the equation 2x minus y equals -4. The difference between this problem, as you can see, is it first wants us to complete a table of values, then it wants us to identify the intercepts. So those are two different methods, and it's asking us to do both of them for this problem. So if you have 2x minus y equals -4, typically your first step with making a table is you pick some x values, plug them in for x, and then solve for y. But to make our lives a little bit easier, we're actually going to turn this equation to y equals mx plus b form, which is what we're used to with the table. So to do that, if we take a look, we can actually make 2x minus y equals -4 into 2x plus 4 equals y. The way we can do that is if you use inverses, so this is 2x minus y. If you add y to both sides, it moves the y over and makes it positive. And then you can add 4 to both sides, which would get rid of the 4 on this side and make it positive on the other side. So if we do that, then when we're plugging in x values, it makes it a little bit easier for us to see what y is right away instead of having to solve each time. So if you solve at the beginning, it makes your life a little bit easier. So then, like I said, you'll pick your x and y values. For this, I usually do a negative, a 0, and some positive numbers. You could have picked anything you wanted. So if your numbers here are different, that's fine. But you're still going to plug them in for x. So if you have 2x plus 4 equals y, and you start by plugging in -1, you'll get 2 times -1, which is -2, plus 4 equals +2. If you plug in 0, it'll be 0 plus 4 equals y, so y equals 4. If you plug in 1, you'll get 2 times 1, which is 2, plus 4 equals 6. And if you plug in 2 for x here, it'll be 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 plus 4 is 8. So those are your table of values. So the next type of method you could use is identifying the intercepts. So if you remember, if you have an x-intercept, that means your y is 0. So if you have 2x minus y equals -4, we're going back to this form of equation because it's a little bit easier. When your x-intercept, your y is 0. So you can either plug in 0 for y, or you could just cover the y, to be honest, and then 2x minus 0 equals -4, which just simplifies to 2x equals -4. And then you divide both sides by 2, and you get x equals -2. So if x equals -2, our coordinates are in the form x comma y, so you plug in -2 for x, and we plugged in 0 for y, so y is 0. So the y-intercept is the exact opposite. Instead of plugging in for our y value, we're now going to plug in for our x. So if you have 2x minus y equals -4, which is again just the equation we were given, you'll plug in 0 now for x, which will end up canceling out that whole side. So if you just want to cover it and just take the net minus y, or if you like to plug in the 0, 2 times 0 is going to be 0. So this becomes -y equals -4. Don't forget that this is a negative y, because if you forget it, then it will change your answer. So if you have -y equals -4, you can just flip the sign of the y and the 4 and make it y equals 4. So since we plugged in 0 for x, it's 0, comma, we got 4 for y, so it's 0, comma 4. So these are our intercepts, and this is the table we created. So if we flip to the next slide, all I'm doing is just moving the intercepts in the table to the graph slide. So this was our table method. This was from the last slide. If you remember, I just moved it over here. And then on the other side, I'm just so before we do that, so if you're using the table method, all you're doing, like we did before, is just plotting these points. So you'll plot -1, 2. You'll plot 0, 4. You'll plot 1, 6. And unfortunately, 2, 8 does go off this graph. So 2, 8 would be up here. So that is the table method, where you plot those points you got, and then you connect it into a line. Our intercept method was the second type of method we used. That method, you just plot the intercepts to make the line. So if you plot, we found these two before, if you plot -2, 0, that's right here. And if you actually notice, 0, 4 was on our table. So 0, 4 is right here. So you can pick either of those methods, but if you notice, they both make the same line. So it really doesn't matter if you pick the intercept method or the table method, then you get your line. And that's how you would graph the line 2x minus y equals -4 using either the table method or the x and y intercept method.